P, and I'm here with fight analyst and co-host Miguel Literati. Miguel, how are you today?
Good. It's fight day in Florida, and we got Malignaggi and Lobov just, I guess the talking's over, and we're about to get busy in the ring, so that's what's on here. I saw that you got a conspiracy theory, and I hate to say it, but I'm right there with you, bro. Tell the people.
Okay, so here, there's a deeper conspiracy behind the conspiracy, but let me tell you the general conspiracy. The general conspiracy is this. If Conor shows up tonight, which I have no belief at all that he's going to show up, but let me just take these off. Let's get really serious here. If Conor McGregor shows, picture this first of all, Miguel. You're at the fairgrounds. You ever been to the fairgrounds in Florida?
I don't think I have.
We did a lot of shows there.
No, this is Tampa.
Oh, yeah, but it's in Tampa. Yeah. Well, I've been to the state fairgrounds in Florida because my grandparents lived
in Tampa.
No, in Tampa, because my grandparents lived on that side of the coast. They lived on the Gulf Shore. Okay, so they lived in Punta Gorda, Venice, whatever it is there, close to Tampa. Florida's just one long line of. If you don't know Florida is just one long line of shopping malls, and there's a beach in front of all of it. So, anyways, I want you just to, for a moment, picture what it would take to take what is probably right now in today's pop culture. Conor McGregor might be the 5th largest star in the world right now. In athletics, I think he's the 1st largest star, maybe 2nd behind LeBron James. But LeBron James doesn't talk like Conor McGregor does. He doesn't draw that kind of attention. You're
discounting a handful of football players, soccer players.
No, but in the United States, people that draw attention to themselves, very limited. That's generally speaking that is something that happens in combat sports. It's something that happens in individual sports, and there are reasons for that.
So what you're saying is you're having a hard time placing Conor, the iconic, a swaggering dude,
in fairground.
Okay, here's
that's totally ridiculous in and of itself.
Here's my caveat for that. And I know it was Tokyo, so maybe your point of the fairgrounds won't be 100%. But I remember a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I had a little bit of disposable cash, and I had a friend of mine who was fighting in Tokyo. He was going to fight in Tokyo that weekend. I said, on Wednesday, I'm just going to take Thursday, Friday off of work and go. And I went, and I bought the ticket, and I went. Because you kind of got to see the fight live. So what's even less for me visible, what's even less in my head is that, for me, what I don't see is Conor watching it like on TV. No matter where it is, even if it's, hey, I got Dublin Stadium with a big screen and I invited 50,000 of my friends to watch it. No matter how bombastic it is, it isn't like Conor just showing up. And I think, and not that my showing up was anything there, but I think also that the bug will hit to see the fight, and then you'll want to see it live too. So I think that those things will combine themselves in Conor, and he'll show up. And I think I understand what you're saying about Florida and stuff, but Tampa, they claim to be an international city. I do think we should hold out. Let's do this. Let's hold out until we see the actual production value around the fight. I want to see what they do around this for $40 on pay-per-view.
Okay, so let's just everything aside, all of the craziness aside, and all of the pragmatics of trying to control that. That is, you're at a fairgrounds. It's probably going to hold. I mean, they would have to do it in the show arena. I'm sure they have a big bleachered area and all of that, and they're going to do it in some kind of area like that. Believe it or not, I've seen whole NHB fights in fairgrounds, in a cattle ring, where they show cattle and they show livestock at a fairgrounds.
Oh, and yeah, I've done one in a dirt floor.
The fighters have to walk across dirt to get into the ring, and the promoter didn't think about that in advance. That's another story. So here's what I'm saying. Okay, let's assume that Conor shows up.
So, but give me a minute here, because I'm looking on the internet, and it looks to me like, the Florida State Fair and the fairgrounds, yeah, they fit more or less what you're talking about. The advertisement is there's a fair for body, mind, and spirit, some type of expo. Then there's a Florida gun show.
Yep.
Discover the fun. Then shark.
Like every state fairground there is.
Yeah. Then
they're no different. It's no different. In fact, it's probably smaller in a lot of ways than other places. They pick the fairground.
It's got a nice amusement park attached to it, from what I can see and stuff. Okay, but so you're right.
Okay. So imagine this. Let's remove them from the fairgrounds and let's put them in the old War Memorial in Fort Lauderdale, where we did shows at for the FC. That held 4,000 people. Call it 5. There will be 30,000 people that show up just to see Conor McGregor, right? I mean, okay, not 30,000, but there will be 5,000 people who show up literally just to watch him walk through the door, which they're not even going to get to see. They won't get close to him. But how are they going to? Okay, I'm sorry, we're not talking about pragmatics here. Let's just get to the thing. In other words, you can understand why I'm saying the idea that Conor McGregor shows up to this is almost non-existent in my mind, because I cannot fathom how bare-knuckle fighting championship, unless there is a secret behind it, which we will get to, unless they have big money behind them, I can't imagine how they could do that. So here's the first part of my conspiracy. Artem Lobov goes out, he fights Malignaggi, and Paulie beats the shit out of him, which by all accounts should happen, right? I mean, we agree on that. Technically, we agree on that technically, right? If this were a boxing match, if this were actual boxing rules, if it had corners, if it was a 22-foot ring or a 24-foot ring, Malignaggi is going to beat the brakes off of him, correct?
There's two camps on this one. And even in a boxing match, yes, in a boxing match, a pure Queensberry rules boxing match, Malignaggi's level should show, and she's got enough movement and ability to use the ring where, Lobov is going to just look slow, and it should be embarrassing. In this other
totally embarrassing.
In this other sport, it's going to be a little bit different because, here's where it's a little weird, right? Malignaggi, it is Queensberry rules, right? So Queensberry rules, but they are modified to a certain extent because they do allow you to hit in a clinch. And they do allow you, when you're hitting in a clinch, and you can break and hit on the break as well, right?
There you go.
So now these are differences from regular boxing that are essential and could give Lobov a chance, especially if he's able to do some damage. The other problem with Paulie is that Paulie can be described with no other word in boxing as light-fisted. He's light-fisted. He doesn't hit hard. Nope. So if he can't really, he's talking about a big game, about punching, Lobov so much that this, that, and the other stuff is good. He's talking a big game, but we from his boxing stuff, he's a cutie. So I don't know, and it doesn't look like the rules lend themselves to the cute game of boxing. On top of that, the other part of it is. Remember the whole controversy over the last BKB or BKFC show where the fighter was fined half his purse because he wasn't fighting and stuff like that. So
there you go.
I think Paulie may have a little bit of a different pressure there. And we're going to find out today. That's, I think, what makes it compelling is Paulie is putting himself out there. If he loses,
look. That's why I'm picking Art. That's why I'm picking Artem. I know I'm crazy. I look at it and I go, of course, I'm picking Artem Lobov to win this fight because Paulie cannot stand there and take 2 steps back and, do his bob and weave and duck and go da 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 and pitter patter him a little bit and then run around the ring. That's not allowed in the rules. And I've seen very little of this bare knuckle boxing. I've watched maybe 5 of them. Like literally 5 fights, not 5. I don't even know how many they've had now. But I remember when the first ones, they had the knuckle cut out of an MMA glove. And so now they're just hand wrapped, and it's actually bare knuckle.
I think you're going to run into recently there have been a lot of upstart groups trying this. And this is bare knuckle fighting championship 6. So, they're on their 6th edition. I don't think, before their last edition where Lobov fought Easter, I don't think they were really that much on the radar. So, that's what that is there.
Yeah. Well, so here's what I'm saying. I'm picking Artem, and I'm picking him for a couple of reasons. And then I'm going to get to my conspiracy. So I'm picking him because they start in the center of a ring like wrestlers do, toe on the line. So you toe the line. When they say go, you start swinging. It's not you go back to your corners, you come out, you feel each other out, you dance around. It's immediately swinging. They take points off if you back up, if you flee, if you're not pursuing the fight all the time. They will penalize you for this. That's why I'm saying I believe Artem can win this fight. If this goes the distance, I think all of that favors Artem, because I think Malignaggi is going to wind up blowing it because he's going to want to try to counter what Artem does, because he's going to get hit by him at some point. At some point, he is going to get hit. And when he feels how hard Artem actually hits with bare knuckles, I think it's really going to change his tune. And I think he's going to go, whoa, wait a minute, this is different. Then you've got the clinch. Malignaggi knows nothing about clinching. All he knows about clinching is wrap him up, hold on to him, tap, 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 rabbit punch, ref breaks him up, break, clean break, go. He's gonna get clinched up, and Lobov's gonna wham, and he's gonna underhook him, and he's gonna slam him into the ropes. He's not gonna give him any place to run. So Malignaggi has to fight, and he has to fight right now. Now, he can land as many punches as he wants to, but if they don't hurt him, what's it going to matter? I mean, I understand accumulation matters, and bare knuckled especially it matters, but Malignaggi also has a questionable bone strength in his hands, right? He's had his hands operated on. He said it was 11 years ago, all of that. Okay, so for all these reasons, I'm picking Lobov to win. Here's the bombshell, though. Here's the problem with that, Miguel. If Lobov wins, where does the bare knuckle fighting championship go next? If Conor McGregor does show up and he's sitting there in the corner, the only thing they get out of it is Conor McGregor going, you can't even beat my worst guy. I beat him in camp every day. I knock you out. And he does all that stuff, and that's all it winds up being. Okay? And from there, I predict the death of bare knuckle boxing in under a year. But if what happens is different, if Malignaggi goes out there and wins the fight, and I'm not saying anybody's paying anybody to do anything, but let's face it, they've both already said they're doing this for the cash. They can, at a minimum, get a rubber match or get a rematch, and then maybe a rubber match. We'll see. All with Conor somehow involved. But here's what I think could really be the big conspiracy theory, Miguel. Are you ready? I think the UFC and Conor McGregor are behind bare knuckle fighting championships.
Okay.
Do you need to put it together? Or do you want me to put it together for you?
No, I mean, it's plausible. That's
right.
It's scientifically
if
plausible.
You're going to have a conspiracy.
I don't think the old Zuffa regime would have had anything to do with something like this, but
neither will the UFC or Conor. Neither one will never have anything to do with this on paper, unless it winds up 10 years down the road, they go, yeah, we did this all along. Of course, we're geniuses.
Yeah. So,
remember, I'm the promoter who ran an opposite promotion against myself so that I could have competition, so I could beat myself.
I understand, but I don't quite think that's the case here. But I do think, if it turned out to be, I wouldn't be all that surprised. It's a plausible case, especially because the new owners of UFC, just simply they've been in talks to purchase the premier boxing champions and things like that. So they're looking to diversify. If you look at the content on the UFC's Fight channel, it has now expanded to include Muay Thai and a lot of other types of combat sports. So it is telling, and it is something that you want to keep an eye on. I think that they're always going to keep an eye for cash. And I think, to me, the other thing is this, is just from a logic standpoint. I don't know. If nobody sees it this way, that's fine, and then I'm crazy. But to me, Conor McGregor asked that there's one question that hangs over all of this. Has Conor already made the most money he's ever going to make in one single fight against Mayweather? Because he's trying. He would like to top that. He would like to go over there. But if you're falling back and that was your high point, that's your high point. But I don't know that he's satisfied, right? It did, at least on a high level, he's not. The idea of buying, of the whiskey stuff, it's all cool, hey, whiskey and this, that, and the other stuff too. But it's also been a shrewd business move that's out there for a guy, people with a large influx of cash. What are you invested in? I noticed, I don't know if it was 2017 or one of these recent years, the highest paid actor in Hollywood was George Clooney. And Clooney didn't make a movie that year. The reason was it was income from his tequila business, that he invested in a high-end tequila business. So there are business models that are out there that I think Conor's shrewd with, and I think that's all, and that he's put his marketing in there, right? I think he's also already with Khabib in the first Khabib fight realized, that he's going to make less money with the UFC. Right? In other words, he's not going to make $100 million every fight from now on. I don't know, I don't know how you could think that, but it's also hard to take a pay cut, right? So
and get beat up doing it.
Yeah. So all of a sudden now the Khabib fight, he made 34, not 100 or whatever, whatever that figure is. Maybe they pushed it and stuff like that, but now that's why you get what you get now, where Justin Gaethje, Justin Gaethje is as tough a fight as you want to get for a guy who, if you walked in a room, you'd be hard pressed to find 100. Of 100 people, you'd be hard pressed to find 10 of them who recognize him. If you're the UFC fans, that number goes up to about 80. But still, Justin Gaethje is he top 5 yet? I mean, he's getting there, but there's work to be done there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Ferguson, there was a big name. There was talk on the internet that McGregor is going to be slated to fight the winner of Nate Diaz and Anthony Pettis. And
which you did a great show on that, by the way. Plug that.
And that's one of those things that Pettis is a fight out of the blue. Pettis is a tough fight for him. Is McGregor going to come back at 170? That now he's topping off and stuff like that. So that leaves open questions and stuff like that. And again, based on the Khabib fight, I maybe a Diaz fight, a Pettis, he's not going to make more money for that fight than he's going to make off of the Khabib title match. He's not going to make money for that. More money for that fight is going to be the Mayweather check is going to seem like, whoa. He might make $25 million for that fight, more than any UFC fighter's ever made or whatever. But it's not 100, right? Now, so how do you get to 100? Something stupid, something that grabs people's attention. So
people will watch Conor McGregor and Paulie Malignaggi.
So I'm gonna go right along with your conspiracy theory here. So if the bottom line is and Paulie's on record, Paulie's saying he's satisfied and happy with the money. And that to me means, Paulie's from Brooklyn. New York's not a cheap town. Paulie's made about $7 to $10 million in purses in his boxing career. I don't know how much of that he has left or whatever. Paulie had a good job with Showtime. Again, he was probably on entry-level money, but he was slated or heading towards good money for the rest of his life as a Showtime announcer. If he wanted it, he's very good. And
very good.
So this had to be, I catching money to him to come back, go through the whole rigors and stuff, and try something new and risky. They threw some money at him, I think. And I think, Lobov probably is getting more money than he ever would have made for the UFC, so he's happy. But again, now how do you talk about sustaining that? Even if Malignaggi wins, who's he fight next? What's this roster look like? What's that? The only real reason any of this makes sense is, and to me, as a one-off, just like boxing was a one-off to McGregor, it makes sense for his persona. I think as an Irish person, the whole bare-knuckle fighting thing is gonna have an allure that's, it's more than just bare-knuckle fighting for them, like as a term or a sport or any photo. No, to them, I think it's a little more in their blood. So I think for him to delve into that, it really takes him to the streets of Dublin kind of thing again. You know what I mean? And
Great.
So I think for marketing purposes, as a one-off, you could work with that. McGregor could generate a lot of interest doing this, and to me that means that Paulie obviously has to win, right? So now,
what happens
if you wanted to guarantee, right? So we're going to find out. But this is here. Let me tell you, this is one thing that I would look at, and I'm just going to keep my antennas up. And if it doesn't happen, we move on and continue the conversation. But you got two guys. They've been working their tails off in the news and this, that, and the other stuff. Lobov, I mean, with all due respect to Lobov, he's used to losing in, MMA and stuff like that. He's not in the UFC anymore. And, I think, for money, he's going to have to consider whatever offer comes along. Maybe there is honor and stuff like that. But if it's part of a bigger package and a bigger show, then, everybody knows their role. And his role is precisely that, is to set the table. Now, how do you do that in a fight like this and not have it look terrible? To me, the bottom line is Malignaggi as a boxer is going to hopefully be the owner of faster hands and the owner of the ability to get off first. And really what would happen here, what would make me my antennas go up is if Paulie were to jump on Lobov and not let up and be done with this fight in about 45 seconds.
Something else that I'm going to really be looking for is I'm going to be looking for referee influence. I'm going to be looking for judges' decisions. I'm going to be looking for crowd interaction, corner interaction. All of that stuff is going to tell us an awful lot about what we can expect next. Now,
because they don't got a plan.
Right. So what if let's take it all the way back. McGregor starts saying, I want to fight Floyd Mayweather, which is ridiculous. It's never, ever going to happen. Never, ever going to happen. And then it happened, right? Because they said it was never, ever going to happen. That's the reason it was so huge. They baited us, man. They fly fished, I'm not a fisherman, so I don't know how to do that, but I don't believe in fishing. But they baited the crowd in, and they did that by we used to do it all the time. We would have a fight, and last minute we would cancel the fight. Not we. I'm talking about my organization. I would do this. I would cancel the fight, and I would cancel it for any number of reasons. Usually the fighter that I was hoping was going to win because they were the ticket draw simply wasn't ready, or I was like, God, he's going to get killed. I'm not going to make any more money on him. That sucks. I don't want that to happen. So make no mistakes about it. Do not be misconceived on any of this. Promoters are interested in making money, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If that's not the case, we'll go to the gym and we'll have a fist fight. Okay? We can close the doors, we can all have fun, and we can fight. But if you want to do a show, then that means you have to sell tickets. Because if you don't sell tickets, people don't see it. If people don't see it, there's no way to pay the fighters. The whole thing's gone. It was a waste of money, and nobody wants to do that. Nobody likes to lose money over and over again. Once or twice, sure. Over and over, no. You don't like doing it, especially if your life depends on it. I depended on it. We bought Huggies with the tickets that we sold. You know what I mean? So it was a different kind of thing. So we had to do things in a way that early wrestling did. We had to be creative, and we had to be smart, and we had to do things so that people would they would want to see the fight, and then I'd take it away from them. What happens when you take something away from somebody that they want? They want it more, right? So the more you dangle it in front of them and take it away, dangle it, take it away, I would build this Malignaggi versus McGregor thing over a year. And I would make it the most ridiculous thing that could never happen in the world. And if Conor shows up tonight in the corner, we will see that happen. If Conor's not there tonight, bare-knuckle fighting's done in 12 months or less. Because I don't think they have any money behind them, or Conor would have shown up. If Conor shows up, Conor probably is the money behind it.
The problem with Conor is, I mean, the thing that overrides this is exactly what's in his UFC contract. And we can't be sure, you know. His UFC contract is going to be unique. I don't think it's going to be the cookie-cutter contract. So
no.
that depends on, you know, exactly what concessions he got, you know. The bottom line is at the end of the day, the Mayweather fight was co-promoted by the UFC. The UFC allowed that to happen. And right now, especially in public, Dana doesn't look much like he'd like to go through that circus again. So how did McGregor work out his contract? Did he allow the UFC to retain this type of power for him? Say, hey, you know, does he, in his contract, have the ability to do a one-off fight in the sport of his choosing if it materializes and the UFC can no longer block it? Because if Dana had not wanted the Mayweather fight, it would not have happened. Fact is Dana's a little more forward-thinking than, you know, most boxing promoters, because you saw on the boxing end, that fight was a no-go. Nobody really, you know,
nobody wanted
like that. Every bit of money they made off of that was not off real boxing fans. No, you know what I mean? It wasn't off the boxing community. You know, the boxing people, you know, in boxing and stuff. Yeah, I'm sure everybody watched it and everything like that, but it wasn't with any support from the boxing community. That was Dana crossing over and doing that, you know, P.T. Barnum act with the Mayweather people and getting that done there. But when they negotiated a new contract, I think it's a showstopper to me. I don't know. I don't know how it went, and I guess they resolved it. But if I'm McGregor, I walk into that, and he negotiated an 8-fight deal with them, right? Does that contract, did he say to them, I make the call on whether I can do my next one-off or not you guys? Because
I think he had to. He's got enough money. Look,
you got to start there.
He's got to
start there on negotiations, but I don't think the UFC gives that right up lightly. You know, they did to Couture back in the day. You know,
Couture wasn't McGregor. Couture wasn't McGregor.
No, but he was a precedent setter, and Couture at the end of the day was you know, wasn't a wild man either. He was a polished guy coming at them with lawyers and smart Hollywood people. At the end of the day, he's doing movies with, you know, I don't know which of the I may get it wrong. It's not Fast and Furious, but which is the franchise he's in? Well,
Stallone and
so I mean, the bottom line is
every action figure ever.
See, so whatever the deal is that franchise, Couture, that's a different level. Now, he may not be McGregor level in terms of what's in his bank account, and then, you know, in terms of that, but they gave Couture his ability to do that, or else the bottom line is if I've seen some of the early UFC contracts, and, you know, the bottom line is you give up a lot of ancillary rights. So most UFC fighters like Couture, when if they get a chance, it's like, hey, we want you in the next Sylvester Stallone movie. They may not know, but they may have to get permission from the UFC to even take the role, because the UFC controls their image and where they appear. Yep. And a lot of fighters give that up just to sign that first contract. And then when they realize that they gave it up, it's like, oh my God, they can put me in a video game if they want, not pay me. You know, all the little things that come up. You know, that's where Couture was a precedent setter. But the other part of it is Couture. You know, I don't want to say selfish. Selfish isn't the right word. But Couture got taken care of himself. But it wasn't like the wave that changed the business. Everybody else's contract stayed the same, right? So that change only happens every once in a while in the contract. So that's the key with McGregor. Because if he has to go get the UFC's permission, then, you know, I'm not sure it won't happen with the UFC's permission. They may do it, but right now they have an 8-fight deal. They don't have an opponent for him. They'd like to get him back in the ring. And what they do need is one of those UFCs to say, hey, another UFC with 1.5 million pay-per-views, not some bare-knuckle fighting championship 6, 7, 8, 9 with their guy on it. You know what I mean? So it's touch and go. I think, to me, that's the main block right now is how strong was Conor's negotiating of his contract with the UFC post McGregor Mayweather, and whether he retained the right to make the call on his next one-off, or he has to get Dana's permission. That's it. It hinges on that.
I don't disagree with that. The only thing that I would insert into that would be this: McGregor has not fought. He unofficially announced his retirement. Has walked away from everything. No one's really seen much of him. I mean, he shows up here and there because when you're that famous, you're gonna, you know, they're looking for you everywhere. Paparazzis, they're looking, they want to find you. And so they're, you know, anything they can get on him, they're going to get. I have this sneaking suspicion, and I know it probably sounds really crazy, but what conspiracy theory doesn't? I'm betting that one of McGregor's caveats in his contract was, I can do other things that have nothing to do with the UFC business-wise, and it's none of your goddamn business, and I don't care what it is. Whether that's I'm going to box Floyd Mayweather again, or I'm going to do whatever else I want. Otherwise, I won't sign with you again. I've got $100 million. I can go do other things. I can do a movie. I can do this. I can do that. I can make more money not getting beat up. So
okay.
if the UFC,
if I'm Dana, my response to that is okay, and I leave the room, and that's it. And that's it. That's negotiating.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that much power to change the thing. And the bottom line is you're in a situation here where, I mean, Dana's not, you know, Dana's one of those guys that, you know.
Well, remember this,
he's multifaceted. So I'm thinking that they probably made even more money. And yes, Dana was there to grab his piece for the UFC and stuff like that. But I think that Dana definitely, maybe allowing them to use footage or whatever, added to the promotion of that fight.
And for sure.
So it would be harder to do without them. And for McGregor to want to cut them out after they made him more money, then again, that becomes contentious. I would tell him no. I would say, no, we did our jobs. You know, we made money because you made money, and you ain't going to make that kind of money unless we're involved. And that's it. And that's it. And where does he go from there?
And you might be seeing why Conor goes, I'm retiring.
Right?
I'm just not going to fight anymore. And he may well do that. I don't think so. I hope not.
The next time we see Conor McGregor, if it's in the UFC or not, the next time that we see him, he'll be over 30. Okay,
so that's a fact. So, unless wait a minute, unless
he's aging, brother.
Unless we see him tonight.
Well, no, I think he's actually 30 already. I think he's
okay. So either way, if we see him tonight, we are in an agreement that if we see him in the corner tonight, that there's more to it, correct?
Yeah, because I think the thing is the answer to my question originally is that McGregor has made the most money he's ever going to make doing Mayweather-McGregor if he keeps letting time go by like this as well. And at some point, you know, not fighting in the UFC, if he doesn't fight for 5 years and comes back in 5 years against the right opponent, it may be like huge like that. But he's really wiped out 5 years of his career. So the problem with the fight game is that Dana and the UFC hold all the power because they can take you and string you out for a couple of years. Say, okay, say McGregor didn't sign the contract because he didn't get his ancillary rights. So he wouldn't have fought Khabib. Khabib would have fought Ferguson, and we would have, UFC would have moved right on. And the other guy would have been sitting there getting arrested in Florida, spinning his wheels, selling his whiskey and not fighting.
There's also one thing that we haven't looked at. Did I just lose sound?
No, I'm here with you.
Oh, okay, there we go. One thing that we haven't looked at is what if Conor? Look, you can say you signed any contract you want publicly, but contracts are private. Conor may not. He may have signed a one-fight contract deal with the UFC and said, "We'll see what happens next."
But that's not the way.
He may have done that. We don't know that. We haven't seen the contract.
I know we haven't seen it, but when nobody says he doesn't have an A-fight deal, it's pretty much accepted that he signed an A-fight deal, I think. So I don't know. You're right. Obviously, we don't have the paper in hand, and there may be ifs, ands, or outs and things like that. And like I said, you're probably looking at a 100-page document. No joking.
Yeah,
or somewhere close.
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
So in that type of situation, the little nuances and stuff, the shell of it is he signed with them for A fights, and UFC made it public that hey, they had him on an A fight deal, and he was back under their fold and stuff. And I think that includes that full ancillary rights. At the end of it, so. But that's the UFC could be the holdup again here. They may not want to repeat the thing, but I think if presented correctly, that McGregor doing a one-off against Malignaggi, in bare knuckle, that it would be probably a top 3 pay-per-view draw.
What I'm saying is this: what if the Malignaggi fight doesn't happen? What if the UFC is behind bare knuckle fighting with the idea that Malignaggi comes over, or even Mayweather comes over and fights in the UFC, but they make it sort of a special rules, stand up only, something like that. I don't know. They could do something like that. See, there's all kinds of caveats. We could go down every rabbit hole there is known to man in this conspiracy of mine. But what I am going to say is this. If Conor McGregor doesn't show up tonight in that corner, and if Malignaggi wins, bare knuckle fighting is over. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. The logic of the questions is this: what do you do for an encore? So if it's not McGregor, right, and he's out of the picture, then who's Malignaggi's next opponent? They may resolve that in some ugly pro wrestler type of some guy runs into the ring and yells and blah, blah, blah. But it's still not that interesting. Who's it going to be? A James Easter guy? You know what I mean?
Well, Bellator's got that wrestler, that blonde-haired guy, and he comes off really horribly. And
Jake Hager?
Yeah, it's the whole thing's awful, and it doesn't.
That's my question. I wonder if you took Conor right now and made him fight one fight in Bellator against Michael Chandler. It doesn't matter who. How and Dana didn't do a thing. Let Bellator sell it. I wonder how it would do.
Half.
Okay, that's fair. McGregor pulls some name and stuff like that, but how powerful is McGregor without the UFC? You know what I mean? It's like when you take Papa away, it gets rough. And that's the thing about him is you now have a major league there for good or bad. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean,
look, we could just as easily be talking about Justin Bieber and Tom Cruise, right? So, I mean, we're speculating on all of this. This is all conjecture, and none of it means anything until we see what happens tonight. One thing's for sure, we're going to see a fight tonight. Two guys are going to put hand wraps on with their knuckles showing, and they're going to beat the shit out of each other in the center of the ring. The one thing I did want to draw attention to just real quickly before we sign off, though, Chris Lieben is in this. The Crippler, I never liked the guy. I see a new Lieben. There's a different something happened with him. There was some change. I saw a it may even
sobriety.
Well, sobriety, yeah. But I think that I think something else changed with him too. And I don't know what that is, maybe therapy, I don't know. But he had talked about he'd had a lot of head injuries and a lot of head trauma because the UFC just got him pulverized. I couldn't understand that. I was like, okay, here's your most famous guy from the first Tough, and everybody hates him or they love him, and you're getting him killed every time by putting him in there with guys that are way, way better than him. I think that was the worst handling of a UFC fighter I'd ever seen. Because if they would have handled him correctly and led him up the way they do the tough fighters now and babied him like they did them, they'd have a whole different fighter on their hands. He'd probably be a pretty big star right now. Instead, he's fighting bare knuckle fighting, for his lunch money. And it kind of sucks for him. And I hope that for his sake that he goes in there and he gets a quick win and that he doesn't take a lot of punishment, because I worry about guys that have reported traumatic brain injury. And so look for that too.
We could probably do breakdowns on UFC careers and where things went wrong. To me, the bottom line is I like Chris Lieben and I enjoyed watching him fight, and he did have some memorable moments and stuff. But I do think that because of personality and stuff, that he was to an extent, a construction of the UFC and the UFC's TV show. Keep in mind, he lost on the UFC TV show. And if I'm not mistaken, he lost twice on the UFC TV show and was eliminated. And then when they did the finals, they brought him back to fight a guy. And that fighter was a Canadian kid who lists 0-1 as a Sherdog record, never fought before, never fought again. And many people feel he was an actor that had been brought into the show, maybe as a joker or as a catch-all for exactly that type of thing. They had to get him a win. So when you fight a guy who's 0-0 in your UFC debut, and you do have some experience, and Lieben, had a certain level, but he wasn't the fighter. I think right now he's a much better fighter. I think that's what it is he shed all the nonsense of, being a superstar and, maybe addictions and things like that, and just got down to the basics. And now he's doing kind of what he wants. I think you're getting kind of that focused, motivated, kind of like been through the mill already. I don't want to talk about it kind of act, Not that it's an act. I think Lieben right now is probably the most genuine guy that we've ever seen of him,
I agree. And I should say that I didn't like who he was on the show. I didn't like his character. I thought he was a bully, and I didn't like any of that. And I like the guy I see now. I like he's a kinder, gentler guy who's probably a lot better at being not so gentle. So anyway, hey, this is Chadillac. That's Miguel Ederati. This has been the CRP. We've been talking about Paulie Malignaggi versus Artem Lobov tonight in the bare-knuckle fighting championship. I don't know. Where do you see it at, Miguel? It's on pay-per-view.
It's on pay-per-view. They say that most of the American, the big American providers of pay-per-view will have it on the list. So look for your local listings. It's in 8 p.m. start time on the East Coast, so keep that in mind. But once again, check your local listings for the exact times. And I'm pretty sure that Chad and I and the group here at CRP are going to get together to talk about this nonsense one more time, at least after the fights. And if anything crazy happens, we'll probably have a lot more of it. So buckle up. The fights are just a couple hours away.
Namaste.